Welcome to your first online lecture in COM 110, Introduction to Communication. I'm your instructor, Tracy Griggs. As I hope you know by now, we'll be using the textbook Understanding Human Communication by Adler, Rodman, and Dupre. I hope you have the 12th edition of the textbook. It is quite a bit different than the earlier editions Wake Tech has been using, so please make sure you have the correct version of the book. It's important for you to know that I will not stay strictly with the textbook. There will be quite a few concepts presented in these recorded lectures that are not in your book. And it's also important to know that just because I don't address it in this lecture does not relieve you of the responsibility to know it from your book. So, anything in our book or in these lectures is fair game on quizzes and tests. So before we get into the really fun stuff like giving speeches and figuring out what people are saying with their body language, and assignments where you'll have to try a certain way of communicating in a group setting, we have to take care of the basics. What and why? So we start with the questions such as, what the heck is communication anyway? You know there has to be a formal definition. What are some models of communication? Those are the principles that have been found to be true about communication over the years. It sounds boring, but actually it's very interesting and useful. We'll also talk about things like what makes an effective communicator? Are you one? Well, we'll find out. What are the misconceptions many of us have about communication? And why should we care about studying communication? How will it be helpful to you in your life? So that's what we'll cover in this first lecture. Once again, you are responsible for what's in this lecture and in your textbook. Some of the information is the same because I think it's especially important, but you still need to read the book. All right, let's tackle what is communication anyway. First, let me say that for the duration of this class, communication will be defined as between humans. So any examples you give should be between people. Now, we know that we all love our pets and definitely communicate with them, and they communicate with us. As a matter of fact, my daughter Skypes with our dog from California. So we understand that this is a legitimate form of communication. A lot of things communicate as well, right? Signs communicate. The style of clothes you wear sends a message. Whether you shave or brush your teeth definitely communicates a message to people. But since this class is entitled Understanding Human Communication, we're going to stick with that. So the official definition of communication, of course, there is no official definition. There are all kinds of different definitions of communication that scholars argue about, but this is the official definition as the authors of your textbook define it. It is the process of creating meaning through symbolic interaction. So we have a process. That means communication is always developing. It's dependent on other experiences that you've had with that person in the past. And communication happens in context of where you are and, of course, the timing. Some comments are very funny in some settings and not so funny in others, right? The goal of this process is to create meaning. So when we communicate, we want to create meaning. There is a purpose. We are trying to influence, inform, encourage, insult. The process will convey meaning to someone. Interaction means that it's between at least two people. And communication is symbolic. These words we use, they stand for something, right? They're not just gibberish, they mean something. So we as a society, and sometimes even subcultures within our society, right? Computer people or music people, we agree on what a word or a tone or a gesture means. These are symbols, that's what we mean, and these symbols have meaning. There are, of course, many types of communication. How do we as humans communicate? There is intrapersonal. That is what you say to yourself. Now, we're not going to hit on this too much in this class, but I feel this is a vital component of how we communicate with others around us, how we view ourselves, how successful we are in life. I know that's kind of deep, but I would encourage you to pay attention to your own self-talk. How do you communicate with yourself? What do you say to yourself when you're facing a tough challenge? When it's late and you have homework that's undone and your friends want you to go out? What do you say to yourself when you fail? What do you say when you're faced with a situation where you might fail or you're likely to fail? These are often scripts that we replay in our brains over and over again throughout our lives. And if we can become aware of those scripts and even consciously change those scripts, we can often change the patterns in our lives. This is very important. Intrapersonal communication. We'll have a discussion board on this a little bit later in the semester, so give some thought into the kinds of things you say to yourself. Next is interpersonal communication. That is between two people. Small group would include discussions in a boardroom, conference room, team meetings, planning meetings, even online discussions, as we'll do in the semester in our forums. Public communication is public speaking, giving a speech, and mass communication is mediated. That means there is some form of medium that is transporting your message, whether that's television, radio, a blog, email, Facebook. Any of those examples would, of course, suffice. Models of communication. So we talked about this, and to me, again, sometimes people find these models to be very boring. I find them to be very interesting because they're true in many cases. Your text outlines two very simple models of communication. I'll touch briefly on these, but you'll want to read about them in your book for more thorough explanation. Basically, there are two models. One is linear, which means we put the message out there and we are not looking for feedback. Noise and environment affect this, and we're going to talk about those in just a minute. Transactional means the sender is looking for feedback, so we look for signs of whether our message is getting through, a look of confusion or nodding in agreement. We might elaborate or change our message if it appears we're not getting through. We might consider who we are talking to and what they might be thinking. If you're talking about illegal immigration, if that person is from a different ethnic background, you might consider that they might know some illegal immigrants. They might have relatives who are illegal immigrants. When you're talking about homosexuality, you would likely talk about the issue differently to a person who is gay or who you know has a sister who is gay, correct? Transactional means we care about how our message is being received and whether it is having the desired effect. Very, very important part of being an effective communicator. All right, we mentioned noise, so let's talk a little bit about what that means. Noise is anything that interferes with your message. It's lunchtime. People are hungry, right? The room is hot. There's a cute girl or guy behind you as you're speaking. You're going too long. You have made unsubstantiated claims. All of these things and countless more can interfere with people listening to your message. Like right now, if you're eye-chatting or IMing with your friend while you're listening to this lecture, you're likely missing some very witty and life-changing statements. Possibly, it could happen. If you're sitting in the kitchen and the TV is on, that's noise. If you're upset because your girlfriend or boyfriend hasn't called, that's noise. It's anything that interferes or distracts from the message that you're trying to put across. We also talked about environment. So what is environment? This is more the background of the person or the people that you're talking to. So it's the baggage that they bring to your conversation or speech. They don't like athletic people because jocks made fun of them in high school, for example. They have stereotypes about your ethnicity. They love or hate your topic, so they're against it or love it before you even got started. And they have been required to attend, so they have to be there. So any of these things will influence how people hear your message. Have you ever said something and been astounded that someone heard something completely different from what you thought you were saying? You may have supposed that your listener was operating from a similar background to yours, that you share common assumptions about the world, that they are like you. All or one of these suppositions may not be correct. That might be a good time to ask questions to find out why. Better yet, ask those questions before you speak or before you give a speech. If you know your audience better, you can do something about any hurdles they might throw up about your message. Which brings up the question, what do you do if you discover there are problems with noise or environment that are hindering your message from getting through? Well, I think the best idea is to meet it head on. Don't pretend that it isn't happening. Don't just hope it'll go away. Don't get embarrassed. I just think it's important to meet it head on. So be observant. Look around while you're speaking. What is going on? Next, Go on a fishing expedition. Make comments to see if you can figure out what's going on. Comments like, boy, it is hot in here. If you see a bunch of people nodding and waving, I'm starving, and you see a bunch of people going, oh yeah, oh yeah. Or I hate these things. Like I hate these kind of mixers things if it's a one-on-one conversation. Or maybe talk about the kinds of people that are there. Perhaps that's distracting to the person. So you kind of go on a little bit of a fishing expedition to figure out what is going on with that person, why they're not paying attention. And then just ask a question. Let them talk. If we're in a group or if we're in even sometimes a public speaking session, you can get away with this kind of thing if it's informal. Just ask a question. What's going on with you guys? Tell me, talk to me. What do you think about what I'm saying? What are your responses? And you might be surprised that they'll be very open and honest about what's going on. All right, I said there were going to be some things that I was going to cover that are not in your textbook, and this is one of them. So I will give you a little highlight here that this is very important to me. One of the reasons that Grunig's models are important to me is that it has a very real-world application. I do a lot of public relations. I think we see a lot of communication in the news media from organizations and from our government. Grunig's models help us to filter and decipher what those groups, organizations, government entities are doing. And I think that helps us to be more critical in listening to the communication. Okay, so the first one is press agentry. This is linear. We talked about linear before. You put the message out there, it's all one-sided. You're not looking for feedback coming back the other way. All you're doing is communicating a message. It has spin. It will tell only the good things and will probably be somewhat untruthful in making the message look good. Very interesting story. I had an opportunity to visit the Paramount Studios recently, and we saw Lucille Ball's dressing room and the area outside of where her husband at that time was as well, his dressing room. And they told us a story about how she got a lot of criticism because she worked all the time and she had little kids. So what she did is she had this garden area outside of her dressing room made up to look exactly like her backyard. She would bring her kids to work with her, and she would bring photographers in to take pictures of her out there playing with her kids while she was on a break, and then send those pictures out to make people think that she was spending more time at home with her children. Now, that is exactly what I'm talking about press agentry. That is putting a story out there. It doesn't even have to be true, but all you're caring is you want to put this message out there to influence people and to put a spin on the story. So the next thing is called public information. Now, public information means the organization supposedly is trying not to spin the information. They are simply imparting the facts so you can make your own judgment on what it all means. Now, this is still linear. They're really not looking for feedback. Of course, this may include a quote from a spokesperson who may try to spin the story. We always have to assume that there's some type of spin happening when an organization releases information. They are guarding their public image, and even if they are admitting wrongdoing, it's likely we're not getting all the story. So we know there's spin inherent in any of these stories, but public information tries to just give the facts and let people make judgments. Next, one-way asymmetrical. That means the organization or the spokesperson makes it sound as if they care about their constituents and what they think and feel, but they have not done any research, they're not seeking any feedback, and they are not willing to change. And then finally, two-way symmetrical. This is a back and forth dialogue. So all the others have been linear. This one is supposed to be transactional, and really what it means is that this company is looking for what is best for not only the company, but for the consumers as well. They're looking for feedback. They're wanting to find a solution that works for everyone. Kind of a pie-in-the-sky concept, many people think. Okay, so who cares? Who cares about these models? Why is this an important concept for us to study? There's a Texas State University professor that has given a great quote, I think. He says, "A healthy and vibrant democracy requires an engaged citizenry who think critically. So if we know Grunig's models, if we know the different tactics that an organization may use when they're communicating with us and our government may use in communicating with us, I think we can think critically. Okay, what are they trying to communicate? What are they saying? What do they want me to think? Is there spin involved? Are they really trying to meet the problem head on, or are they simply just trying to make it go away? It's important to learn to interpret the strategies employed by officials who speak on behalf of large corporations and government entities. We need to be somewhat critical. Next, are you competent? Communication is situational. You may be a great communicator in one situation, but need some serious work in another. For instance, you might be great one-on-one, but totally freeze up if you need to deliver a speech. Some people are great at speeches, but can't talk in small groups, right? Communication is relational. What constitutes good communication will vary from place to place and in different situations. What is appropriate in one situation may be totally inappropriate in another. Using LOL and abbreviations and all kinds of emoticons may be appropriate communication with your friends, but it will make you look silly and would be inappropriate in an email to your instructor or as part of a job application. Communication can be learned. Yes, you can be taught. Like any skill, practice and instruction can help transform you into a better communicator. That's kind of the point with requiring this course for many of you. It's a common understanding in most circles that if we are better communicators, we are going to be more successful in whatever we do. But we are also going to avoid all kinds of unnecessary conflicts based on misunderstanding and, yes, miscommunication. All right, we're not going to spend any time really talking about misconceptions. The book does a very good job of explaining this. Please make sure that you read it. And one final note, questions. This class is going to be a good opportunity for you to practice your professional communication skills. You're going to get very frank feedback from me in regard to this. And one of those is how to ask questions. The questions you ask communicate a great deal about you. Therefore, I want to address when it is appropriate to ask questions of your instructor or your boss or anyone you'd like to think highly of you, because this speaks to your resourcefulness, your thoughtfulness of other people's time, and your organizational abilities. First, questions are important. The ability to ask intelligent and thoughtful questions is an important part of communicating. But you should always try to figure out the answer first before you ask the question. If you're just too lazy to look it up on the syllabus or the website or in your notes, don't ask the question. Go find the answer. If the answer is readily available by doing a quick internet search, don't ask your boss or your teacher. If you know it's going to sound like a stupid question and you really don't want to sound stupid, you might want to go research it first. Wikipedia is a really good source for this. Now, you can't use Wikipedia in your research, right? It's not a good research source. But you know what? If you have a stupid question that everybody else knows that you don't know, Wikipedia is a good first place to go look. However, please do not waste countless hours looking for the answer to a question if you know that you can ask. If you lost an email, if you're away from your computer and will be all day long, please ask me. I really do want to answer your questions. Your bosses and other teachers really do want to be accessible and don't want you spending too much time trying to find it on your own, but please make an effort first before you ask. And again, this is a good business professional standard that I'm going to try to hold you to, okay? Please ask me questions, but please make sure that you've tried to find the answer first before you do that. All right, well, that's it. Look carefully at your homework assignments on Blackboard, and of course, ask questions if you have any. Have a great week.